Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 2 p.m. Welcome to the April 4th Public Safety and Justice Committee. I am Supervisor Ellenberg, chair of this committee, and we are joined by Supervisor Wasserman, who is vice chair. And to get us going, I'd like to ask that our committee members going down the line will introduce themselves, please, starting with Dr. Jordan.
Good afternoon. Dr. Michelle Jordan, Medical Examiner, Coroner's Office.
Jeff Rosen, District Attorney.
Hi, good afternoon. Laura Garnett, Chief Probation Officer.
There, it's on. It's on. You're on.
Damon Silver from the Public Defender's Office on behalf of Molly O'Neill.
Under Sheriff Rick Sung from the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Smith is currently in a meeting with use of force experts for the consent decree, so that's why she can join us. Thank you.
Aaron Johnson, the Director of Pretrial Services.
Good afternoon, Deborah Ryan. I'm the presiding judge of the Superior Court.
Jeff Smith, County Executive.
Miguel Marquez, Chief Operating Officer.
Good afternoon, Rob Coelho, Assistant County Counsel.
Gary Hersig, Deputy County Executive.
And Sylvia Perez McDonald, I'm the Director for the Independent Defense Counsel Office.
Thank you all for joining us today. I also want to thank many of you for meeting with me over the past month and providing me with valuable information about a lot of the work that's being done here. My staff had the opportunity to tour both the main jail in Elmwood this month, as well as join Lieutenant Oberdorfer on a ride-along. Each experience was educational and eye-opening, and it's important to me to experience what all of your work looks like. So thank you for sharing that with me. And with that, we're going to move into public comment. If you're intending to speak during public comment, now is the time to make sure that your yellow card is in that little plastic folder. Up there, we have well over 10 comments, so you'll be, each speaker will be given 1 minute, and I'll call you up in groups of probably 6 or 7. You can line up in any order, but as you come up to the podium, I ask that you please state your name for the record. So we will start with Norcy Melendez, Nordy Campos, Maritza Maldonado, Luis Angel Reyes Savalsa, Chavez, and Kim Gupta. Please come on up, and you'll each have 1 minute. I just want to make sure the clerk sets the clock to 1 minute, please.
Got it. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Luis Angel Reyes Zabalza. I am an immigration attorney at Pangea Legal Services. I'm also the attorney coordinator for the Santa Clara County Rapid Response Network, which this county so generously funds. I want to direct my comments today to Supervisor Ellenberg, Supervisor Wasserman, and urge you to stay strong and to not make any changes to our sanctuary policy. I want to make a simple but urgent point. Every study on the subject demonstrates that immigration proceedings are not only an improper but also an ineffective way of dealing with public safety. Studies show that sanctuary jurisdictions are safer than non-sanctuary jurisdictions. We also know that immigration proceedings are civil in nature, not criminal. Issues that are criminal in nature should be dealt through the criminal justice system. Issues of homelessness, poverty, mental health, and drug addiction.
Thank you very much.
What should rule on these questions.
I'm going to ask everyone, thank you very much, to please respect the 1 minute timer so that we have time, so that we're able to hear from everybody today. Thank you so much. Come on up. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Maritza Maldonado. I'm the founding executive director of Amigos de Guadalupe, Center for Justice and Empowerment. We are a place-based organization in the heart of East San Jose. Our work is with immigrant families, and my comments tonight are also to our supervisors that we have been very, very proud of the work that has come out of our county of leading nationally our efforts in our sanctuary county policy. And I happened to be in San Francisco when we sued the current administration, which another time that I was very, very proud of this county. What I want to say is I want to encourage us to continue to stay the course. What happened here was not about immigration.
Thank
it
you
was
so
about
much.
mental health.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon.
Apologies, we'll reset you. Time flies. Go ahead, please.
So, good afternoon. I'm here. My name is Cecilia Chavez, and I'm here to urge the county to stay strong in our current civil detainer policy. I work with families who are going through the criminal system, and they should have their day in court. We should not be involved in federal work. We should not be facilitating federal agencies' work. ICE is a very well-funded agency and does not need county support. We can and we should stand strong against this agency as we have done so in the past. This policy has been in place for the past 9 years. We should not change it because of one incident. Policy is not made this way. So we urge you to stay strong and protect our civil detainer policy and keep it as it is. Study the issue very well, please.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Nerly Campos, and I don't think there should be any changes to this policy because I believe ICE breaks up families apart, and this policy has been working for 9 years, and I don't see why that should change.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Guptill, and I am a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice at Sacred Heart and the Rapid Response Network. I live in Susan Ellenberg's district. I'm here today to register my strong support for our immigrant community. The civil detainer policy keeps families together, helps both victims and witnesses come forward, and protects due process for everyone, including immigrants, as you well know. I'm very upset that people long opposed to our policy are trying to politicize a terrible tragedy in order to deny and demonize immigrants, and undercut due process, because we do know that's would happen. I urge you to not change or amend the policy in any way and to stay strong and make sure that everyone, including immigrants, are treated equally in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. The next group is Robin Goka-Win. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Celine Din-Tanel, Mary Helen Doherty, Susan Bassi, Juan Lozano, and Arcelia Gonzalez, and David Padillo. Come on down.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Robin Goka-Win, and I live in Sunnyvale. I support immigrants, and I volunteer with the Rapid Response Network. And I urge you to maintain the sanctuary policy. As a stay-at-home mom, as a mother of two, I feel safer with the county being in the sanctuary policy. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Celine Din-Janelle. I'm a District 2 resident. I'm an immigration attorney with Pangea Legal Services and a member of FIRE. As an immigration attorney, we talk to a lot of people who have interactions with ICE, and I want to share with you one of those examples. One of our clients, Carlos, was attacked by ICE agents when he was in custody, and they wanted him to sign his own deportation. They twisted his arm, they hit him, and they slammed his neck on the table and forced him to put his fingerprint on paperwork. He's now suing ICE for $750,000. We should not be working with this agency under any circumstances. They are treacherous, they deceive the community, and their business is to separate families and spread fear in our communities. Please keep the civil detainer policy as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
My name is Juan Lozano, and I was looking up the meaning of the word sanctuary, a place of safety or refuge. Seems to me that if you go the other way, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be a place of danger and no refuge.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Madam Chair, I would just make the suggestion as far as reminding people here that we want everybody to feel that it's okay to express their point of view, and the clapping or things back and forth one way or the other could intimidate people to express themselves.
I appreciate that reminder, Supervisor Wasserman, and that in fact is a board policy regarding the chambers. We do ask that you withhold applause or other signs of either support or lack thereof so that everyone feels comfortable. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Arcelia Gonzalez. I've been an immigrant. Most of my life I've been here. A lot of people have been here, a lot of immigrants, and a lot of them have been deported, which, you know, we should keep our families united, not divided. And I urge you to please support our policy, to please keep this California sanctuary. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, supervisors. My name is David. I'm an organizer with SCA 2015, work with caregivers, and our paths have crossed before. And just wanted to urge this board to keep the sanctuary policy as it is. You all have also been leaders in making sure that caregivers, who are some of the lowest paid in the country and who are also immigrant and women of color, to be paid decent wages, and so we ask that you also be leaders in this sanctuary policy and do the right thing for folks in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Helen Doherty. I'm a downtown resident, and I'm very proud of the moral position that our county has on sanctuary. It makes me feel like I'm living in the right place. And I really hope and pray that you keep that policy strong. I'm a rapid response volunteer, and I'm active both with Surge and PACT in that capacity. And I've witnessed families and individuals really having experienced harm from ICE, and it's really heartbreaking. So I ask you to please continue our bold, moral, ethical position in support of our immigrant community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Bassey, and I have distributed a letter that will be in the file, and you've all probably gotten a copy of it. Judge Ryan, this is a letter that I've written to you in response to a complaint you were investigating. Bambi Larson's file was withheld by the family court from me for 2.5 weeks. That's not okay. It's a public record, and this county has a long history of ignoring what's going on in our courts. Mr. Rosen has engaged in prosecutorial misconduct where he has put innocent people in jail, whether they were immigrants or natural-born citizens, for far too long. Jay Borski, who is here today, has tried to deflect questions from the public and the press by singling me out and attempting to embarrass me, asking questions about Ms. Larson's death. This is not an immigration issue. We are failing all of our citizens, whether they come here seeking asylum from another country or whether they've lived here all their lives. Judge Ryan, you're now in charge of our courts, and you need to do a better job.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. We ready for a new group? Vicente Vega, Emilio Carrillo, Tori Truscheit, Nishtma Jolly, Michael Lazaria, Samuel Martinez, Alice Bittner, and Isaac Lara, please.
Hello, my name is Vicente Vega. I'm an organizer with SEIU Local 2015. I'm here to ask them, please, to not change this policy. This is something that would only criminalize our communities. This would instill fear into our communities. This could separate more families, and that is not an answer to what has happened. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Tori Trushite. I'm here as a resident of District 2, as a parent, and as a rapid responder, and I'm here with Surge. What I fear is that if you go ahead with any proposed changes to this sanctuary policy, that the county, which I have been so proud to live in, because of our sanctuary policy, could be unintentionally aligning itself with anti-immigrant forces that we know at this time are so prevalent in this country and are being stoked. That doesn't feel like Santa Clara County to me, and I urge you to keep this sanctuary policy just as it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emilio Carrillo, and I want to thank you for this time. I'm here today to address those of you that would like to see this sanctuary policy rolled back, and I highly urge you to reconsider. It has taken so much work, so many years, trying to forge trust between our law enforcement with the Latino and Hispanic community, and we cannot let a tragic event be used for political purposes to further a political agenda. Because the fact is, a tragedy just like this one will only create more tragedies. A lot of people that are victims of hate crimes or any other crimes will not come up and will not report them. And those tragedies will, in fact, be left forever in the dark, all because of fear. Thank you for its time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nishta Jolly. I'm an immigrant. I'm an attorney. I work with the YWC of Silicon Valley, and it is our position that Santa Clara County should not change or even amend its policies when it comes to ICE. The procedural failure here in this case was on ICE's part, not on our local law enforcement's part. ICE had 9 opportunities statewide to obtain a judicially signed warrant for the arrest of this person. It did not do so. It was not a failure on local law enforcement's part. It's ICE's failure. Their procedures are the ones that need to change, not ours. If we are really looking to improve public safety, the issue we should be addressing is that of gender-based violence. This was a crime committed against a woman by a man who had a history of crimes that had sexual overtones. We have had an increase in rapes and domestic violence in San Jose. If we really want to address public safety, we need to address gender-based violence and not immigration statuses. Thank you.
Next speaker. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Isaac. I'm just honestly a regular citizen of San Jose. I've lived here my entire life. I'm the children of immigrants. And to be honest with you, I am very terrified right now. I came here to speak to everybody to please maintain the civil detainer policy that we have right now. Because not only do I have to be here to speak to everybody, but I have to go home knowing that I have friends and family that are all in danger if anything changes. I know firsthand what it's like to see people not only not trust law enforcement, but fear that if we go forward, what if ICE gets our name? What if we are taken away? I know what it's like to have kids lose their parents firsthand. I've seen it with my own eyes. So please, please, please stay strong. I urge you to maintain the civil detainer policy in San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. Welcome.
Hi, all. My name is Alice Bittner. I am a member of Susan Ellenberg's district, District 4, and I am also a volunteer for several agencies, including Sacred Heart Charities and the Rapid Response Network. I strongly support Santa Clara County's current sanctuary policy for undocumented immigrants. Families live in terror and fear of being deported. The children in one family run into the bedroom and hide in a closet anytime anyone knocks on the door. Children should not need to live this way. It is a sin to break up loving families. I implore you to keep protection in place for undocumented immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Lazarin. I'm the biological father of Audrey Pott, international story. My daughter committed suicide in 2012 via hanging herself. I'm here to direct this district attorney. I'm currently receiving threats via Facebook from the Audrey Pott Foundation, Lisa Pott, that's running an organization under my daughter's name that's against cyberbullying. Mr. Rosen, 5 years ago, was on national television and CNN promoting cyberbullying. I'm getting cyberbullied right now. My children are Audrey's biological family, 2, 4, and 8. I have all the screenshots of all the activity that's being done to my family right now. I've been falsely accused to drain my family of all financial resources with 4 false lawsuits. I also have the judge's statement on this.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask you to stop, but you're welcome to leave any of those
Okay, I would like
papers
to
with the
leave
clerk
these
for the
because I'm going
record.
to be filing a
Thank you.
restraining order.
Thank you very
And
much.
a police report.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Samuel Martinez. I work with Silicon Valley. More importantly, I think I'm children of immigrants, and I would like to address the board and say to continue to maintain the civil detainer policy that Santa Clara County has. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next group of speakers, Fernando Perez, Steve Herrera, Harry Adams, Kathy Jasper, Alice Lynch, James Lynch, Susan Hayase, and Brian Wheatley.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Fernando Perez. I work for Silicon Valley Debug, an organization that protects the community of San Jose and gives them a platform to be heard. At this moment, I applaud the group and the family and the community that has come out today. I have the privilege of being here today to support a force that wants to continue to protect the city that I grew up in. And by doing that, this detainer policy should remain the way it is. It really is a diverse city, it is a diverse community, and it should continue to feel that it protects everyone, and that it shouldn't feel like people live in fear at this moment the way the rest of the country is behaving. I think there's a lot of feelings right now that are forcing families to be afraid, for children to be afraid, and please, this detainer policy is example to the rest of the country, to other counties throughout California, that Santa Clara County sets an example of being progressive by being protective of the human rights that everyone deserves. So please continue to preserve the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. Hello.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. My name is Harry Adams. I've lived in East San Jose for about 35 years. I am a former chair of the County Human Relations Commission. And I was proud to serve on our HRC for 3 years, served as chair for 2 years. Proud because of the visionary leadership of our county on numerous issues facing our community, often sometimes unpopular with some aspects of the community. The board's sanctuary policy was a powerful statement in support of human rights, not just immigrant rights. I urge you not to retreat from that powerful statement because of one incident. So please keep the statement, the policy in place. In fact, if there should be any change that would benefit our community and communities throughout the country, it would be to eliminate ICE.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Herrera. I'm a deacon in the Catholic Church here in the Diocese of San Jose, and I'm here to speak in favor of keeping the sanctuary policy in place. It's not because I'm biased one way or the other. As a deacon, I've had to counsel people who have lost loved ones, as Bambi Larson's family and friends have. But I've also walked with immigrants and undocumented workers and farm workers and seen the fear and anxiety they live in every day. So I'm here to speak on behalf of alleviating the pain of all members of our community and not increasing it, not increasing distress and anxiety because of laws that are changed and sanctuary policies that are modified. My friends, people are living in the dark shadows of our community. They need our help, not increased fear and stress and anxiety. Bambi Larson's death is a terrible tragedy, and I've embraced families of that nature. I know their pain, but I know the pain of undocumented workers, and I urge you to consider keeping our sanctuary policy in place, not to amplify the fear and anxiety, but let's reach out to the whole community for the common good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Good afternoon.
My name is James Lynch. I'm a retired railroad worker and a voter, and I'm here to urge the Board of Supervisors to keep the sanctuary policy as it is. The current wave of hysteria of anti-immigration and protecting our borders, if you drill down deep enough, is really just racism. I won't stand for it. I urge you not to stand for it either. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Susan Hayase. I'm a longtime activist in the Japanese American community in Santa Clara County. I want to thank you for the existing sanctuary policy and urge you to keep it the same. It is deeply meaningful to me as a Japanese American that our county would give sanctuary to immigrants who are demonized. In 1942, my parents and grandparents were demonized and laws and policies were passed to put them in camps. You can never do a redo, but this is our chance to stand strong for equality and humanity and justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Alice Lynch. I live in District 2. I volunteer as a legal observer for the Rapid Response Network in Santa Clara County, and I'm part of a team that has been supporting an undocumented mother and her 7-year-old son who are at risk of deportation because their request for asylum was denied. I've seen the impact of living in constant fear on this family. The child is plagued by nightmares and is struggling in school. His mother suffers from depression and anxiety. It is already very difficult for this family and others in our immigrant community to trust law enforcement. We cannot afford to further jeopardize this fragile trust by weakening our detainer policy. I urge you to be courageous leaders and resist the pressure to criminalize all immigrants. Increasing the level of fear in our community makes all of us less safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Jasper. I teach at Evergreen Valley College now. I've taught in adult ed. I've taught citizenship and ESL and worked with a lot of immigrants. And I also support the sanctuary status here. San Jose Evergreen Community College District has it, our state has it. And I think it's very important that we send the message that we are a diverse population, we support our diverse population, and we keep this policy of sanctuary county. And I'm in Mike Wasserman's district. I live in South San Jose, and Evergreen is, I guess, in Dave Cortez's district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Wheatley. As many of you know, I'm a longtime teacher and union leader in East San Jose, a rapid responder, and a San Jose Unified School Board member. Santa Clara County has been a national leader on sanctuary with one of the strongest policies in the country. Keeping families together and kids in class is crucial for the well-being of all of us. The negative impact on immigrant families don't end with the deportation of a parent. School children suffer economically and psychologically with the absence of mom or dad, and that trauma is very difficult to recover from. Simply put, families belong together. Bambi Larson was a tragic case. I join the community in mourning the loss of this innocent life. Sadly, this tragic situation has become a rallying cry for those who wish to criminalize all immigrants in our community. Please stand strong and help us move to a more inclusive and just society. I urge you to continue the civil detainer policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our next group of speakers will begin with Pete Weiss, Megan Swift, Vicki Matheson, Ellen Tyler, Nicole Boaz, Deborah St. Julian, Barbara Hanson, and Carol Stevenson. Come on up, please.
Hello, my name is Megan Swift, and I live in District 4. I strongly urge you to keep our current civil detainer policy as is. Any cooperation between the police department and ICE puts all communities at risk, especially San Jose's vulnerable and scared undocumented families who are my friends and my neighbors. Fixating on one's nationality and immigration status does a disservice to your voters. It gives the public dangerous, racist notions about who immigrants are. Working with ICE will deepen mistrust and make us all less safe. And I'm asking you to please, please be brave and stand up for what's right and keep our current policies as is.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Vicki Matson. I'm here as a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice, and because I care deeply about the safety of every member of my community. I'm not often proud of my country anymore, but I am so proud of my local community because of our sanctuary policy and commitment to immigrants. I strongly support the county's current civil detainer policy, and I urge the Board of Supervisors to continue protecting due process for all residents, regardless of immigration status. Weakening that policy would erode trust in local law enforcement, and when people feel endangered to come forward as victims and as witnesses, everybody in our community is less safe. I ask you to please have the courage and the strength to uphold these policies to keep families together and protect public safety.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Pete Weiss. I'm an immigration attorney and Equal Justice Works fellow with Pangea Legal Services here in San Jose. I'm here today with the Fire Coalition, the Rapid Response Network, and Citizens Showing Up for Racial Justice. I'm proud to live and work in a county that has been a national leader in protecting its immigrant residents against the harmful policies and demagoguery coming from Washington. As an attorney, it's already all I can do to convince my immigrant clients to call law enforcement if they suffer crime or if they witness one. I asked the Board of Supervisors, especially Supervisor Wasserman and Ellenberg, to stand by this county's values of equal treatment for all and to keep our current civil detainer policy as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hi, my name
It's embedded in the podium.
Okay. Hi, my name's Ellen Tyler, and I live in District 2. And I'm here today because I support immigrant rights. And I know that it's important for our entire community to trust in our local police. Coordinating with ICE will seriously damage that trust. Please uphold our county's current sanctuary policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barbara Hanson with PACT, People Acting in Community Together. And though the Statue of Liberty says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." This is becoming more and more only aspirational. We are too much a nation born of genocide and built on the backs of slaves. Our unwillingness to face, as a nation, our corporate sin of racism is basic to what we are discussing today. This county has stood as a moral core, and I have been proud to be its citizen. Please don't throw this core away. It is way too precious. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Nicole Boaz, and I live in District 2. I'm here today to support immigrant rights. I'm proud to live in a county with a sanctuary policy, and I don't think that the county or local law enforcement or any local agency should be working with ICE under any circumstances. And I urge you to maintain the current sanctuary policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, my name is Deb St. Julian, and I live in District 1 in Mike Wasserman's district, and I live a mile and a half from where this tragedy occurred. And I've lived in my very safe neighborhood. It's a multi-ethnic neighborhood for 33 years. And while this is a devastating tragedy, I would note it has nothing to do with immigration policy. I join all the others that have spoken in being very proud to be of Santa Clara County's current civil rights detainer policy. I do not connect my safety with the deportation or collaboration with ICE. This is a false connection, and I reject it. I strongly support Santa Clara County's current sanctuary policy, and I urge this committee and my district council district person to leave this rational, sane sanctuary policy in place. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Stevenson, and I live in District 4. In the early 90s, I practiced immigration law at a time in California that we thought that anti-immigrant sentiment was really high. I was really lucky to be able to, in the late 90s, start working for the county at the newly formed Office of Immigrant Relations with a different name at that time. But I learned there so much about the contributions and the concerns of immigrants here in Santa Clara County. And ever since then, I've been so proud to be part of this county and the forward thinking and the protections that immigrants have, including this detainer policy. And I hope and urge you all to keep the detainer policy as it is.
Thank you. All right, our next group will begin with Ana Carasa, Eunice Hernandez, Soledad Teles, Veronica Avendano, Miguel Lira Romo, Ari Zarate, Scott Largent, Jeremy Barus. Come on up. Welcome.
My name is Anna, and I'm here to speak up for my community and for myself because I'm an immigrant myself. And I urge the Board of Supervisors to stay strong and protected on our civil detainer policy, whether it's about notification or about detainers or anything. It's the same thing for us. Collaboration is collaboration. And human dignity is first before policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm going to translate for Soledad, but before can I ask a question? We're wondering why there's
Sorry, 1 second. Will you hold the time, please? Is it a procedural question?
This person is taking pictures of the speakers?
She has a media credential, I believe.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
But you're welcome to talk with her.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
absolutely.
Hola, me llamo Soledad Telles y soy residente del Distrito 2. Quiero agradecer al condado por su liderazgo en la política de proinmigrantes. Apoyo la política actual de detención civil y les urjo a que no la cambien ni la quiten. La tragedia horrible que pasó con la señora no tiene que ver con inmigración, es un problema de salud mental. Les pido que por favor piensen en el impacto que tiene en nuestros niños, en nuestras familias, el querer eliminar la póliza del condado de no cooperación con ICE. Es demasiado estrés que estamos cargando por preocuparnos por pagar la renta, por pagar la comida, cuando no hay oportunidades de trabajo para los que solo contamos con un número de ITIN. Más esto, imagínense el estrés. Esto no lo considero justo. Gracias.
Gracias.
Hello, my name is Soledad Telles. I'm a resident from District 2. I want to thank the county for its leadership with its pro-immigrant policies, and I support our current civil detainer policy, and I urge the board not to change it. The terrible tragedy has nothing to do with immigration. It is an issue of mental health and other issues such as criminal justice. Think of the impact that think of the impact this will have on our family and our kids when you're considering eliminating the policy of no cooperation with ICE. We already carry a lot of stress as immigrant families, worrying about how we're going to pay for rent, how we're going to pay for food, when we have very, very limited or almost no opportunities for work, when we only have an ITIN number. Think of the stress, the added stress that will impact families if this policy is changed. To me, this is not just. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also going to translate for Veronica.
Okay.
Gracias. Hola, mi nombre es Verónica Vendano, soy del distrito 2. Dice, quiero agradecer al condado por su liderazgo en políticas pro inmigrantes, apoyo a la política actual, a detención civil y les urjo que no la cambien. Necesitamos sentirnos seguros para poder reportar crímenes, acceder servicios por medio del condado y ser parte de la vida cívica aquí, pero cualquier tipo de enredos con ICE crea desconfianza y miedo en la comunidad inmigrantes. Por el bien de todos los residentes del condado, necesitamos que inmigrantes y sus familias confíen en el condado. El condado ha trabajado mucho, muy duro por... Gracias.
Gracias.
Hello, my name is Veronica Vendano. I am a resident of District 2. I also want to thank the county for its leadership when it comes to pro-immigrant policies. I also support our current civil detainer policy, and I urge the board not to change it. We need to feel safe as immigrants to be able to report crimes, access services through the county, and be part of the civic life here. But any type of entanglement with ICE creates mistrust and fear in the immigrant community. For the well-being of everyone in the county, immigrants and their families need to trust the county. The county has worked very hard for a very long time to create trust, to gain the trust of the immigrant community, especially undocumented immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. I do see another yellow card in there. Please, if anyone else is intending to submit a card, I'm asking you to please do it now, just so that I have a sense of how many more we're going to go through. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I'm Eunice Hernandez with Sacred Heart Community Service. We're part of the Fire Coalition, also part of the Rapid Response Network. And I also here to say that we support the current civil detainer policy and urge the board not to water it down. The county should not be providing more resources, or the county's resources, to ICE to apprehend more of our community members. Regardless of how the communication works or in what circumstances, even with notifications, the county will be facilitating the deportation of community members and doing their job for them, which the county has pledged not to do. ICE already has the tools to apprehend individuals, including fingerprinting information, and does not need local law enforcement's assistance. Many of our organizations here, including the Rapid Response Network, we regularly get calls from community members whose loved ones have been detained. They have been detained by ICE when they're leaving for work. They have been detained by ICE when they're taking their kids to school. They have been detained by ICE when ICE shows up at their workplace. So clearly, ICE does not need the county support to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Lira Roma. I am a Siren youth leader. I am currently in my first year at Dianza College. I came to the United States from the city of León in Guanajuato, Mexico. When I was 1.5 years old, so I was only a baby. So my parents brought me to this country to start a new life, and the desire to grant us new opportunities that they couldn't receive. My parents' dreams and risks cannot be compared to what we will have in the future. If any changes were to occur, there is simply no way to completely elevate an immigrant community members' perception that any interaction with local government could result in ICE involvement. When a family member gets deported, the pain doesn't stop at the deportation of a loved one. The fallout from a deportation is devastating on a family as well. Rent becomes hard to pay, groceries are hard to buy, the stress of a family is unbearable. So today I urge the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors to keep our current policy policy as it is. And yeah, thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you. Come on up. Hi.
Hello, my name is Ariane Zarate, and I'm a high school student from Del Mar High School. So I'm here as an example of what happens, the impacts of when someone is deported or when your family is deported. So my dad was actually deported when I was only 7 years old, and that had a long-lasting effect on me ever since that happened. I'm constantly worried all the time. I'm constantly worried if the police will ever be involved in my parents getting deported again. So I'm here to tell you guys that I've been there before. I've felt the point that my mom was a single mother. She had to get more jobs just to provide rent and food. So I'm telling you again, I don't want to relive this, and I want to move again because of this. Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg, Supervisor Wasserman. My name is Jeremy Barus, and I'm the Director of Civic Engagement with Siren. Conversely, when the local criminal justice system cooperates with federal immigration, it creates a two-tier system of justice which subjects immigrants alone to double punishment, and one which is often far worse than the original criminal sentence, deportation. What Santa Clara County's policy is about is ensuring that equal protection and due process are protected in this county by ensuring that immigrants are not subjected to this double punishment because of its voluntary cooperation. It should also be understood that cooperating with a lawless agency such as ICE further undermines due process and equal protections. It is crucial that the county uphold equal protection and due process by standing strong on its current policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Largent. I feel like I've kind of been deported myself out of my daughter's life. I really am all for everybody being here. We all came from somewhere else, and we all deserve to have the same rights. We can't even take care of our own citizens here in Santa Clara County. We can't even provide ample legal defense. We can't provide drug rehabilitation. We can't provide mental health services properly. Now, I do think that this man should have been removed from our country. I think he should have been held accountable. But maybe we could have taken the meth pipe out of his mouth, and maybe he wouldn't be robbing white women in Willow Glen to support his drug habit. Maybe years ago he could have been in drug rehabilitation, and maybe it turns out the guy maybe wasn't that bad of a person, but maybe he got into a gang and got on drugs because he was chasing that meth dragon, and we couldn't take that pipe out of his mouth. We couldn't help that guy, and we couldn't put him on a mental health hold, a behavioral health hold, nothing. We let him right out the door. So thank you.
Thank you. Michael Lazarian, Michelle Coleman, Molly McLeod, Lauren Renard, Lindsay Austin, Danielle H., Phuc Tang, Hadia Machinrad, and Sharat Lin. Come on up.
My name is Michelle Coleman. I live in District 4. Like the vast majority of county residents who were born in this country, I am the descendant of immigrants. Only a few generations ago, my ancestors were scorned and demonized. I am proud to reside in a county that's been at the forefront of protecting immigrants in our community and that stood up to hateful rhetoric against current immigrants. The county has worked hard to build trust among community members. Our entire community is safer when the public trusts local law enforcement and believes that the local police is there to protect everyone. Our police needs that trust in order to work effectively. I urge you to preserve the years of trust building by maintaining our current sanctuary policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Molly McLeod, and I'm very supportive of keeping the civil detainer and sanctuary policy the same. I'm a District 4 resident, as are generations of my family members, and recognizing the racist origins of immigration laws that have prioritized in the United States access for white, Christian, able-bodied people like me. I am extremely proud that Santa Clara County, which I call home, has taken the moral stance and been a beacon of hope and I think that it's very important to me knowing the strong educational ties and community ties and the ways I've seen many of you show up in community to continue to exemplify that leadership by keeping the civil detainer and sanctuary policy the same, not making any changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. My name is Lauren Renaud. I live in District 2, and I'm a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice. I support immigrant rights, and I also support the due process rights of everyone in our community. I'm proud of the stance that our county has taken in defending and upholding sanctuary policies in the face of anti-immigrant attacks by the Trump administration, especially considering a recent Supreme Court decision permitting ICE to hold people indefinitely. It continues to be vitally important to stand strong, and for this reason, I urge you to do the right thing and maintain the existing civil detainer policy as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Danielle Hochstetter, and I am a voter and parent in Sunnyvale. I am here because I strongly support Santa Clara County's current sanctuary or civil detainer policy, and I urge the board not to water down due process protections for immigrants. Please stay strong and make sure that everyone, including immigrants, are treated equally. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Hi.
Hi, my name is Phuc Bang, and I am against any changes to the current civil detainer policy. I live in San Jose with my wife and 2 children. All my family, including my relatives, came to the United States as refugees after the Vietnam War. They wanted to come here and be safe and start a new life. When I was young, we always lived in underserved communities. I began hanging out with the wrong crowd and got addicted to drugs. It got so bad that I began selling drugs to support my addiction. I've accepted my punishment, learned, and thankful it changed my life. However, ICE decided to take my permanent status away. I believe detaining people who are not a threat to society is a waste of taxpayers' money. That money can go to more useful things, as in healthcare and education. I believe everyone should do their time and get out and have proper access to lawyers while they are going through court proceedings, not because of immigration status. Detaining and deporting people hurts and separates families. Having such a policy will make a lot. Oh, thank you.
Very much.
Hello, my name's Hedia Matinrad. Oops, sorry, my note just went away. Sorry, do you mind restarting?
That's fine. Go ahead. Ready?
My entire note just went away. But, my name's Hedia Matinrad. I am a resident of District 3. I immigrated to the U.S. at the age of 12 from Iran. I'm Iranian American, and San Jose was where I started off. I'm now a physician serving our community, including a lot of folks who are undocumented, a lot of folks who are homeless, and a lot of folks who use drugs. What motivates me to be here today is our shared humanity and my oath as a physician to not do harm. I have personally seen these policies, the rhetoric in our country, being anti-immigrant, lead directly to suffering and death. I personally took care of a patient who sought care a year after his excruciating abdominal pain started because of fear of deportation by ICE, and that gentleman died from gastric cancer. I urge you to continue our civil detainer policy and sanctuary status of our county because I believe in people's lives.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
You don't need the speaker. There's one microphone embedded in that.
Oh, okay. So my name is Sharat Lin. I'm with the San Jose Peace and Justice Center. And I think the essential issue here is not about our immigration policy, but which I think most of us are in agreement, but rather about what is the relationship between our civil detainer policy and criminal justice. And the fact is that there's very little connection between these two. And so to solve a criminal justice issue through an immigration policy doesn't make any sense. The essential issue of how do we avoid a Bambi Larson murder happening again is that we have to look at how do we look at sentencing, look at rehabilitation in our criminal justice system. We cannot rely on ICE to solve this problem. And if Mr. Carranzo were a resident, a legal resident, ICE wouldn't have solved that issue either. So we have to separate these two issues, and support the continued civil detainer policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It looks like we've got another card. Clerk? Come on up. Oh. Bear with us for just a second to start the clock. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Starting now. Okay. My name is Lindsay Austin. I'm a resident of Santa Clara. I've now been in these chambers making public comments over 3 times. First, the Board of Supervisors, as well as attending DVC committee meetings. My question is, how can you offer hope and opportunity to deserving immigrants seeking a better life when you cannot protect your own current citizens? I'm on EBT, Medi-Cal, and cash aid. My ex-husband makes over $350,000 plus bonuses and stocks. I have been kept from this because he paid a Smith-Ostler bonus. Apparently, this county does not know how to calculate a Smith-Ostler bonus through DCSS, and that needs to be fixed. I face ongoing domestic violence despite him trying to use a DVTRO to stop the ability to pay spousal support to me. I don't understand why you won't help your current residents, such as Susan Bassey, Scott Largent, Pam Noodleman, Deanne Powers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it looks like that concludes our public comment. I want to thank all of the speakers who took time to put your comments on the record today. I suspect we'll see many of you again on Tuesday when the board takes this issue under discussion. So we are going to move to approve the consent calendar. I'm first going to take two public comments.
Madam Chair, if I may suggest, Madam Chair, that we give those individuals who've spoken, who probably aren't interested in the rest of the meeting, the opportunity to vacate the chambers so that the speakers coming up can be heard.
Sure, that's fine.
As exciting as the rest of the agenda is to all of us, it may not be to everyone else.
Because they are being very orderly and quiet, I'll call to the podium, please, Scott Largent, and there's a card without a name on it. Okay, speakers, come on up. And you'll have 2 minutes per speaker, please.
Okay, all right. Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Almost forgot what I was going to talk about in the back there. My issues have been like beating pavement. A month ago, I cut off the visits to see my daughter because I'm never going to get out of my hole. Now, with the amount of money that I'm spending, every visit, remember, it's hundreds of dollars an hour. So every week, do the math, 8 hours a week, I'm really only able to pay for the 4. So right there, it's just absolutely leveling me. Now, if we want to stay completely on topic, what I'm trying to get at right here, Susan, because I know you were kind of getting to that point.
I appreciate that,
is
thank you.
When will we, I reviewed your report in the back and the items of what you want to focus on with this committee here. But I see nothing about parents or people doing the right things that have been through our criminal justice system. I'm not seeing anything about the roadblocks that they're hitting, about stuff that I've come in here and talked about, stuff that Susan Bassey's talked about. I see nothing about anything that the public's been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't want you to take this disrespectfully, but a pilot, when they get a pilot's license, they sit in the co-pilot chair for about the first 6 months. So why would we put a supervisor in your position running a committee that has absolutely no experience with this? Now, you're going to take that as a dig, that this is mean for me saying this, but why would you guys have done that? It just doesn't seem like it's very organized. We've had roadblocks that have come up right away with this committee right now, and now the items that you put on that you want to do for this committee have been buried in the consent calendar. You see that right now? No one wants to listen to your good ideas right out the gates. Now, whose fault is that? Is it the county executive that's putting together this committee? Who is really in the background right now that's not thinking of the proper things to do with this committee? We got good opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to pick on you too, Ms. Ellenberg. Since this is about on the consent calendar moving the issues, I was at this meeting where you decided what we were going to put on the study session for this committee, and you seem to be grasping at straws, having no idea what to talk about. And you've just committed this committee to things that aren't going to do any good for our community, kind of like the women's policy group that you worked with for so many years that didn't do anything to improve the lives of women in this community. I want to point out the themes that you all just heard today: keeping families together, mental health issues, drug addiction. People have a right to privacy. You heard one young woman talk about single mother issues and what that had done to her life, the financial issues. You heard a doctor talking about how people were afraid to go to the doctor. What about not able to pay for a doctor? We've discussed many times here. I am a white, privileged, middle-class woman who started out with a lot of money in 4 businesses. And Judge Ryan, your courts and your corrupt, biased judges took that all away from me, and you did nothing. You know what's going on, and you did nothing. I don't know what your oath means to you, but my oath as a mom and as a human being means more to me. And I'm going to do something, and I'm going to speak up. And I'm going to talk and tell the stories about what people are too afraid to tell you. This week I attended a meeting at Santa Clara University where a civil rights attorney, well respected, who had worked with the Pentagon Papers and constitutional law affecting the First Amendment, said that they know police officers lie over and over again in courts, and prosecutors have a conflict with those police officers, and judges let them get away with it. We have to change that. We have to change the trust. We have to change what's going on in our courts. And if you don't start doing something about our family courts and the supervisors don't do something about it, there are going to be lawsuits that will not only put you all in jail, it will bankrupt our county.
Did you have you wanted to make a comment again?
I think I was the one without a name on it. You had a card?
Oh, I thought that was Ms. Bassey. Okay. Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. Go right ahead in theory, but just hold on.
Oh, okay.
We'll get the clock started for you. All right. Thank you for waiting.
I came here 5 months ago to address the issues that I've been experiencing with my family. I found out about my daughter's death via Facebook. I walked cemeteries for 2.5 years trying to find where my child was buried. I've been maliciously prosecuted for the last 5 years since my daughter's death. I am the biological father of Audrey Pott. This district attorney came out on CNN 5 years ago promoting a re-election issue to get re-elected and a cyberbullying law. Last week, I'm getting baseball bat threats from the stepmother that was abusing my child, that's running a national organization for cyberbullying, Audrey's Law. When does this end? When is my child finally going to be resting in peace? I've spent over $100,000 in the last 4 years against these lawsuits, both in family law and civil law. I'm right now in the Sixth Circuit courts being sued because I'm trying to change laws for families and our innocent children for shared parenting. This needs to stop. How would you guys feel? I mean, where is the dignity in people that, Audrey has a brother and sister that's 2 and 4. She's being exploited right now on a national stage on Web of Lies with a sheriff that knows she's hid domestic violence reports of my daughter. My daughter wasn't cyberbullied. My daughter was put in a very, very bad home life. I know it because I've heard it from my daughter's own voice.
Thank you, sir. We've got one more comment from the public on consent, and that's from Lindsay.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Austin. I just wanted to add to what I mentioned earlier about my current issues of getting basic human necessities despite a court-ordered child and spousal support with my Apple executive husband who makes over $350K. I was put in contact with aides by Cindy Chavez and someone else. This led to being called by a DCSS official named Christine Ryan. The only resolution to this issue of being owed over $9,000 worth of 3 months of not being paid child support is to get him to sign a stipulation, which he refuses without deducting expenses that have nothing to do with child support issues or anything like that. And these wages were garnished from his check, but then returned to him later. Like, that's ridiculous. Also, Wells Fargo Bank is being used to disseminate these DCSS payments despite local and national scandals involving their practices and corruption. This is just not acceptable, and there needs to be an amendment to how DCSS handles support so that they're able to properly calculate Smith-Oster bonuses. I know of many people who've lost lots of money owed to them because they couldn't figure out this very simple thing. This is Silicon Valley. This is the home of Facebook, this Apple, Oracle, all these companies. There should be a way to calculate Smith-Oster bonuses so that women and children are not left without health insurance, ability to pay for their medications. I had thyroid cancer. I need thyroid replacement. I'm not able to pay for that right now because of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I turn to my colleague to ask if you've got any changes you'd like to make to the consent calendar, I want to thank all of the committee members for selecting the 3 study session topics that we will be exploring this year. I look forward to digging into these issues together, and next step is that my staff will be reaching out to many of you as we plan out the schedule of the sessions and to help gather information that we'll need to have substantive conversations. And now, Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any changes you'd like to make?
Thank you, Chair Ellenberg. I would make a motion to approve consent items 6 through 8 as listed on the current agenda. I would also be in favor of putting any of the items 5A through G that you might want to put on consent, or if there aren't any you don't want to, then I look forward to the staff reports.
Give me a second on that. You want to put, so not 4. Let's do that a little more slowly. You want to put?
Sure. On our current agenda, consent items are 6, 7, and 8. So I was making the motion to approve those. Yep. And then item 5 are the annual reports that we get at committee, and then we'll hear again at budget meeting, and we'll hear again at the board meeting. And we have their PowerPoints. But if you wish to hear any or all of them, that's your prerogative, certainly, as the chair.
Fair enough. Just a second.
Whatever your pleasure.
You very wedded to this? All right. If you don't mind, we did ask them to prepare reports and have questions, so I think I'd like to lean toward keeping item 5
Okay, so
on
my
the
motion.
agenda, but hopefully we can move through them briskly.
Sure. My motion then is to approve 6, 7, and 8 on the consent calendar.
All right. Consent. I second that. And thank you. I appreciate your
You bet.
flexibility there. We're now on item 4, And I have one, and the way we're going to do this is have the report first on item 4 with questions from us, and then we will take public comment before we approve item 4 or vote on item 4. Does that work for you?
Sure.
All right. Okay. So we have 2 items under item 4, the preliminary report on overtime and the report on the existing process for collection of firearms. So let's do the overtime first, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Christopher Grumbos of the Personnel Backgrounds and Recruitment Unit, and with me today to present this item are Lieutenant Mark Padgett, who is the Assistant Division Commander of the main jail facility, and Melanie Jimenez Perez. First of all, I'd like to thank Chair Ellenberg for providing the Sheriff's Office with the opportunity to present today. The county has been undergoing jail reform efforts since 2015, and we have worked to change the services we provide and to enhance the climate and culture in the jails for both inmates and staff. This has been at a time when our inmate population has been decreasing, but we have found that the inmates that remain in our custody are more criminally sophisticated, require increased medical and mental health care, and are in custody for longer periods of time. The Sheriff's Office has embraced staffing challenges to ensure reforms take place. A significant factor has also been beginning negotiating improvements for the 2 class action lawsuits against the county and to demonstrate our good faith efforts as a county to improvement. Yet, absent from public discussions on reform has been a strategy to ensure we have adequate sworn staffing to not only implement, but to sustain reform efforts. Today is a first step towards understanding how we got here and how we can work collaboratively towards ensuring properly supporting reform efforts in the jail. Now I'd like to turn this over to Mark Padgett, who will begin our formal presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Lieutenant Mark Padgett. Unlike other departments, the Sheriff's Office is divided into 3 different budget sections as designed by the county executive. The majority of enforcement staff is within the 230 budget code, including sworn and civilian staff. Budget Code 235 is mainly comprised of sworn staff assigned to the Custody Bureau who all report to the Sheriff. Budget Code 240 has both sworn and civilian staff in the Custody Bureau. Staff assigned to Budget Code 240 report to the Sheriff and in some cases to the Chief. This is a budget structure that has been in place from before the Sheriff assuming oversight of sworn Custody Bureau personnel. As outlined in our report, there are considerable factors that affect staffing levels in the Sheriff's Office. In response to Supervisor Ellenberg's inquiry, the Sheriff's Office has a policy in place regarding how overtime is assigned. Overtime shifts can either be voluntary basis or by mandatory assignment. Our first efforts are to fill positions with voluntary overtime, which deputies sign up for in advance. If we are unable to secure the appropriate staffing levels for the voluntarily sign-up process, we will then assign mandatory overtime shifts in accordance within our policy. Based on the need to perform the necessary functions of our jail reforms, we have had to continue to utilize on-loan positions which necessitates overtime. There also continues to be a high number of medical emergencies that require approximately 1,000 unplanned transports annually. This is in addition to the fixed medical transport and hospital guard positions that are currently outlined in the report. As Captain Gromos has mentioned, our inmate population has changed and the services we provide have changed with the shift in the inmate population. We are now providing more vision, dental, psychiatric, and physical health care services. In addition to the increased need for escorting inmates to appointments, we have additional civilian staff in the facilities that provide services, which in turn require additional custody staff to facilitate those services. Since adjusting the sworn staff work schedule to a 1280 plan, staffing has logistically become more challenging as a result of sub-shifts created by this plan. This staffing change has resulted in a loss of approximately 94,952 hours of service annually. Staff in our organization also must take into consideration a proper relief factor for posts which require continuous operation. The current relief factor for a majority of our fixed posts is 0.65. This relief factor has not been updated for existing staff in over 30 years. Alameda County has a current relief factor of 1.4. The MGT report that was presented to the board in February 2015 recommended a 1.39 relief factor, which is 0.74 higher than our current relief factor. Recently, we re-examined our staffing using the National Institute of Corrections best practice tool, and we discovered a more effective and appropriate relief factor for our agency is 1.29, which is demonstrated on the slide.
The past few years have proven challenging for law enforcement agencies to recruit candidates. The Sheriff's Office has sought to recruit laterals that can quickly begin full duty. The hiring process is comprised of many steps that must include a thorough background investigation to ensure our candidates are of the caliber required for our county. The hiring process takes an average of 6 to 9 months, and then a cadet must successfully complete a 16-week academy. Supervisor Ellenberg had inquired about a cutoff period where we could benefit from a consultant to help us fill our academies. We have had to have a cadet complete the hiring process 2 weeks prior to the start of any academy. This is a very tight turnaround, but this has allowed us to ensure we have full academies when they begin. Our recruiting efforts have been very successful, and we will demonstrate later how we have not only met, but exceeded our projected academy class sizes. Not only are we successful in recruiting, we have a high retention rate. Chair Ellenberg asked at our last study board session for data on our employee retention. In 2017, we hired 127 cadets and 12 laterals for a total of 139 individuals. Of those, 130 started as deputies. This is a retention rate of 94% for new hires. Additionally, all existing staff that there were 6 resignations, 6 terminations, and 5 probationary releases. This is a total of 17 employees leaving the agency aside from retiring at the end of their career out of 1,150 authorized sworn positions. We will follow up with off agenda to the committee with additional information and provide retention data to CGL for their staffing analysis as well. On average, 125 people apply for a sworn position in the Sheriff's Office each month. Of those 125, we hire approximately 3 people per month. Given the large number of applicants needed to identify qualified candidates, we adjust our recruitment efforts in the academy classes based on our true vacancy rate. Operationally, we use the true vacancy rate, which is the number of hired recruits in an academy subtracted from the number of vacancies in the deputy rank. A true vacancy rate should be utilized for any staffing analysis. This would differ from what would be evident in a report run by ESA today. The report would show 79 deputy vacancies. However, there are currently 24 cadets in the academy, so today there are only 55 true vacancies. The Sheriff's Office has been reporting on our hiring process and progress since April 2017 to the Public Safety and Justice Committee. This slide demonstrates the last 3 academies from the last quarter. The projected number of recruits is the goal of the Sheriff's Office, and it sets for itself for each class and coincides with its report to the Public Safety and Justice Committee. The star column represents the number of recruits that begin each academy class, and the end column is how many successfully complete each academy. It is important to note that for Adult Correctional Academy 18 and 19, we have listed a projected vacancy rate. This does not take into consider potential retirements. Between now and the graduation date for Adult Correctional Academy 19, 119 sworn employees will be eligible for retirement. Given that we cannot ask employees if they plan to retire or begin replacing them in advance, we are constantly trying to backfill these vacancies. This is compounded by a 6 to 9 month hiring process, followed by a 16-week academy requirement. Vacancies will always occur while an academy is in progress if someone retires. However, we will fill the vacancy with the start of the subsequent academy. Any applicant can successfully complete the hiring process and still be considered for an academy up to 2 weeks prior to the start of that academy. To provide you with a more concrete example, if someone were to retire today, best case scenario, we could have a new recruit ready for academy by class 20, which will begin on September 24th, 2019. Class 20 will graduate on January 9th, 2020. Therefore, the position would be vacant from today, April 4th, to January 9th, 2020. However, a cadet code could be occupied from September 24th, 2019 to January 9th, 2020, so we would need to hold that corresponding deputy code open for the recruit. This demonstrates why we use true vacancies instead of actual vacancies. The slide you see here are vacancy and hiring efforts from November 2017 through May 2019. The yellow graph shows how many vacancies we have for each month from November 2017 to May 2019 by pay period. The green bar shows our true vacancies, which are vacancies minus the recruits. The red boxes represent the start of the academies, and the teal triangles represent the academy graduation with the number that graduated. The gray graph shows the number of staff separated from the agency, and the red graph shows the other impacts that have affected an increase in vacancies. For example, added deputy codes, increased positions, classification changes, laterals, or transfers. The purple graph that hovers over the bulk of the graph are the applicants that applied each month for during that time period of November 2017 through May 2019. When you are looking at the staffing of the sheriff's office, you can't just look at one factor. We are hiring large numbers, knowing that all of the cadets won't make it through the academy. This fact, coupled with retirements, separations, promotions, laterals, and transfers, make it an ever-moving target. Supervisor Wasserman asked a great question previously about our success on hiring. It was hard to answer without this context, but I can tell you the SO is doing a phenomenal job reconciling our deputy vacancies with our true vacancies. Every academy is started close to our vacancies, but it is a 16-week-long academy. During that time, we know not everyone will make it through while we continue to experience retirements, promotions, transfers, separations, and that will always affect our vacancies.
Again, we want to thank the committee for the opportunity to present today. This is an important foundational information prior to the board reviewing the consultant staffing analysis of the Sheriff's Office. This slide demonstrates the areas that should be considered in any future staffing studies. Thank you for your time, and we are available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for this detailed and clear report. It does go a long way toward helping me and I'm hoping everyone else really understand the complexity both of your hiring processes and also how overtime is spent. I just have a question about the relief factor. You mentioned that it goes directly to the issue about how many FTEs are required per post, and in the report itself that we received prior to today, there were a couple of notes also regarding posts. Overtime is predominantly a result of backfilling a post vital for jail operations, and the sheriff's office will only backfill a position with overtime when it is a mandated post position. So a critical piece, I think, for understanding the staffing is also how many posts there are. I understand that there are multiple FTEs or fractions of FTEs per post, but have we seen yet how many mandatory post positions there are?
So obviously we have a number of codes. When we do backfill, we backfill the crucial codes to maintain safety of the jails, to keep the jail operation going and provide services to inmates.
Sure.
As far as a number for you, I do not have it in front of me. I apologize.
Is that something you can get as a piece of this information? Great. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate the report. Do you have anything to add?
I have a comment whenever you're finished.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I've attended half a dozen different graduations over my 8 years, and the people I've met, the men, the women, et cetera, they're fantastic. And when I look at how many people apply versus how many people are accepted, and then who finally makes it through, I have a little joke with my mom, who's a Stanford graduate. It's tougher to graduate. Your rate of acceptance and graduation is lower or higher, depending on how you look at it, than Stanford University. And I just want to say how proud I am of all the people that work for the Sheriff's Department in both corrections and enforcement. And I'm sorry the process is so laborious. I'm sorry the process is so detailed. But what comes out of it, I think, are the best of the best. And when you entrust people to carry guns, to be in charge of other people, you want to make sure those people who wear that uniform are the best of the best. And I thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Supervisor.
All right. Before I ask from, I guess we don't need a motion to accept it, but before we conclude this item, we've got two public comments, Scott Largent and Susan Bassey.
So I've been watching these meetings and the scrutiny over the Sheriff's Department, and as a publisher and a member of the Publishers Association that has been working on SB 1421, I thought it would be important that you realize why this is such an important issue, that our state legislature enacted it. And it's because that if police officers show up at somebody's home on a domestic violence issue, you want to make sure that that police officer is, one, qualified to be able to do the job, and two, may not be a domestic violence abuser themselves. And too often this is hidden and concealed, not only from the Sheriff's Department, but from the public. And we have to do a better job with this. You guys have gone after Lori in a political way that is really repulsive. And in the media, we don't take a position on politics. We report on everything. And the fact that the county council is over internal affairs and you guys have scrutiny over what's going on in internal affairs, and that a deputy could assist a woman he was dating cheat in a custody case, and there would be no criminal prosecution on that, is shocking. The fact that there has been no criminal prosecutions for any internal affairs investigations is shocking. Jeff Rosen isn't going to do anything about bad cops, and he isn't going to support good cops that stand up to judges telling them to do illegal things, because his wife is a judge. There are so many conflicts that it's a problem. You are using money to get in the way of good policing. 90% or 95% of the sheriffs in this county and all law enforcement agencies are really good people. And Mike, they got into the academy without cheating, like a lot of people get into Stanford by cheating. It is time that we change our culture. It is time to give Lori Smith the resources she needs and cut off Jeff Rosen's resources.
Thank you. And as we're getting into a groove, I'm realizing we're not completely smooth yet. I had intended to do public comment at the end of both 4A and 4B items, but if you'll bear with me, we'll hear the other comment and then do 4B.
Yeah, I was going to talk
The
about
process.
4B.
Please
so-
do. Please do.
okay.
This is the time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody. The firearms item on here, I talked about at a lot of meetings about the relinquishment of the firearms. When I received these orders, when I first got sober, inside of these civil restraining orders had a section that told me that I had to turn in my firearms. And there was just no process for anybody checking to see if this was ever done. Law enforcement never showed up. It just doesn't happen. We know that. There was an article that was written in the paper, because I had spoke here several times about it, saying, well, why did nobody ever come out? Why, where's the process? What's going on? On a civil level, we're taking people's firearms, yet we have no proof that domestic violence has ever even occurred. Okay, and that's what I'm finding strange. Is that why it's such a problem right now? Is that why this is kind of being buried? I do need to read the report to fully understand it. On a civil level, I don't think anything ever happens. Why are we not running this stuff through a criminal level? So if I am, like with these orders that my mother got out of Los Gatos, business deal goes bad, rich white woman goes and gets a restraining order, makes up a bunch of stuff, but it's civil. So none of this stuff's enforced, nothing's ever done about it, no one ever grabs the firearms. Civil order with my ex, it becomes civil and peaceful. No enforcement, no visitation enforcement. I mean, there's nothing on here that was ever even done. So if I'm supposedly a domestic violence abuser, run me through criminal court. If I'm breaking the law and my firearms need to be taken, run me through criminal court. Stop doing the civil proceedings that are, these aren't even not even worth the paper they're printed on. None of this stuff is. You never enforced any of this, Jeff. None of these visitation orders for 2 years. None of it's enforced. You don't, no visitation, no firearms, no nothing.
Thank you.
It's frustrating. Thank you.
Just to recap where we are, we've wrapped up item 4B. The action item for that is to get the report on the number of posts, and then moving to that was for 4A. 4B is the collection of firearms report. Different group, same group? All right, let's switch it out.
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff Ken Binder, and I oversee the enforcement divisions of the Sheriff's Office. And with me today is Melanie Jimenez Perez. The Sheriff's Office has a very brief presentation to accompany our report on the process for collecting firearms. This report is one of the referrals the Sheriff's Office is working on pertaining to firearms and responds to a request from Chair Ellenberg to discuss any backlog of removing firearms from people with restraining orders. So the California Department of Justice Bureau of Firearms actually handles firearms registration. Therefore, they are responsible for requesting law enforcement agencies, the Sheriff's Office, which is one of them, with a monthly list of people who have registered a firearm and have subsequently been prohibited from possessing a firearm. The state is also responsible for ensuring that these firearms are collected, and the Department of Justice also conducts targeted operations to accomplish this. In fact, there are 50 full-time agents working in 6 teams, according to the Department of Justice website, that work on these. The monthly list is generated based on the address of a person registers their firearm with at the time of the purchase, and it's generated based on the county where the firearm was registered. The list contains information specific to the individual and the firearm registered. Sheriff's Office staff have to then manually sort through the list to see who resides in Sheriff's Office jurisdiction and cross-reference the individual in the county databases to review criminal history information, verify the address, that the address is the most current, and also to search for any court information. The list also provides aggregate data by prohibited agency, prohibited category in statewide statistics. So this slide demonstrates the steps taken by a deputy when responding to a call for service on patrol. The responding deputy would obtain information from county communications that pertains to calls at the location, parties involved, firearms registered to the location, and any active restraining orders. Follow-up would also be conducted by the responding deputy or a detective assigned to the case. The other occurrence where a firearm would need to be removed is when a restraining order is issued, and the process is similar to someone being added to the California Department of Justice's list. People can voluntarily turn over their firearms, and the process is outlined on this form. So this concludes the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I do appreciate the report, but also want to note that we received it at 5 p.m. last night and the presentation just this morning, and I'm going to ask, I know that every single department is busy. The vast majority are able to get their reports in on time, and I hope that you will be able to do that as well to give us more time to prepare.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions. When you're looking for new addresses or you mentioned the database that you're using, do you also check with the DMV or cross-reference there to get current addresses?
We would use our county CJIC system, which would include DMV
That
data
includes that?
as well, and then that's the state database for DMV.
And about how long is the process of obtaining the warrant?
If we wanted to get a search warrant, it really depends on the circumstances, but generally they're served the same day. It could take up to a couple of days depending if it's in the middle of the night or if there's an urgency or not, really when the safest time to serve the search warrant. But in terms of authoring a search warrant, finding a judge to review, and then if the judge signs on it, that particular process could be less than 4 hours.
And I was impressed with the lethality screen. I thought those questions are good. What kind of training do deputies get on using that form?
Yes, ma'am. We actually train our deputies in the field training program regarding the lethality assessment, and our deputies also receive biannual training as well in their ongoing training once they've made it through the basic training orientation process. And our deputies in the field actually, on any type of domestic violence call, actually do go through the questions with victims, and which includes asking about firearms in the residence. And if there are firearms and there's a domestic violence case, our deputies will go ahead and collect the firearms at that time.
Can people surrender their firearms at court?
Their weapons are prohibited in the court system, so we don't encourage them to bring firearms
It's not a
to
place
court.
of surrender.
But if a judge does give an order in court, then they'll have 24 hours to surrender their firearms or transfer their firearms, and then within 48 hours, they're supposed to come back to the court itself and provide that proof.
So when they surrender, are they actually taking it to a physical location, or is a deputy sheriff coming to retrieve it from them, and that's the surrender?
It depends on how the person wants to vacate their firearms. So they could sell them, transfer them to someone else, come down to the sheriff's office to submit them, or call a deputy to come out.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have right now. Do you have questions? All right. Thank you very much. Received. Moving on to item 5.
And I will again be presenting item number 5, Assistant Sheriff Ken Binder with Melanie Jimenez-Pereira.
Okay. And I'll note that again, at the end of all of the reports of item 5, we'll do public comment.
So I would like to thank the Public Safety Justice Committee and Chair Ellenberg for providing the Sheriff's Office the opportunity to present today. The Sheriff's Office has critical resource needs for fiscal year 2020, and our budget requests reflect our mission of continuing to provide quality services for our inmates as well as promoting a safer community. Our budget submittal addresses resource needs to enhance our ability to investigate cold cases, facilitate the removal of guns in the community, implement and monitor jail remedial plans, and increase our ability to develop and implement innovative recruiting strategies to hire the best employees. Our office strives to be a competitive employer to attract and retain quality personnel. A majority of positions are sworn personnel working non-traditional hours. This year, again, the Sheriff's Office has requested funding for child care. We want to thank Chair Ellenberg for also helping to push this issue forward to ensure safe, affordable child care for all county employees who work non-traditional hours. Access to childcare at non-traditional hours has been a barrier identified by employees who seek to promote or work in a specialized assignment such as homicide. The Sheriff's Office has committed to working towards childcare to remove that barrier for employees and to make Santa Clara County a choice employer. We have seen child care programs similar to what the sheriff envisions in Alameda, Monterey, Contra Costa, Ventura, Los Angeles, Fairfax, and San Mateo counties. The sheriff's office also requests for investigative services to expand existing capabilities and establish a new special victims unit. We are requesting 3 additional positions to assist with reviewing preserved evidence from cold cases and to keep up with the fast pace of new technologies becoming available. With additional resources, our cold case unit would have the ability to increase the number of DNA profile submissions, thereby increasing the rate at which murders are identified, arrested, and prosecuted. Also, the Sheriff's Office is committed to supporting the county's vision of combating gun violence and violent crime through the lawful seizure of firearms. We are requesting 1 additional civilian position to augment our gun surrender program for those wishing to relinquish unwanted firearms. At the April 23rd board meeting, we will provide a report to increase public awareness of our gun surrender program. The addition of a civilian evidence technician increases our capacity to collect, process, and destroy unwanted firearms and/or ammunition. To align our resources in the identification unit, we are requesting to reclassify our latent fingerprint examiner positions to criminalist positions. Over the past few years, Santa Cruz, San Mateo, and Contra Costa County Sheriff's Offices have all converted their examiner positions to criminalist positions. Reclassifying these positions will enhance our ability to recruit and retain qualified candidates. Due to the county's efforts to combat domestic violence, human trafficking, and wage theft, the Sheriff's Office has identified a need to expand our services to victims. We are requesting 4 positions to establish a special victims unit that would employ a victim-centered approach to educate the community, ensure victims are provided with updates on their cases, and connect victims with community-based resources. In 2016, the Board of Supervisors established the Notario Fraud Unit in the Sheriff's Office to educate the immigrant community on how to identify and report immigration services fraud. During this outreach and through numerous investigations, we have identified the need for a Vietnamese-speaking detective. We are requesting the addition of 1 sheriff's deputy detective to better assist the Vietnamese-speaking community with this effort. Our food services unit prepares, packages, and services approximately 12,000 meals daily. We use 75 rethermalization ovens throughout our facilities. These ovens are heavily used to reheat food 365 days a year and have a life expectancy of 10 to 15 years. Our on-site maintenance engineer who performs in-house maintenance and repairs on equipment has been able to prolong the life of our ovens to the maximum extent possible, but it's risky to expect some of these ovens to perform much longer. We are requesting to replace 15 ovens that are 23 to 29 years old to avoid potential interruption of meal service. We are also requesting the addition of 20 new food transport carts, which are used to transport food and meals to inmates. Thank you. Our food services unit operates a staff dining room in both the main jail and Elmwood facilities 365 days a year. The cabinets and counter of the staff beverage stations are 31 years old and part of the original building dating back to 1988. We are also requesting to purchase a second bakery divider. Due to the age of our current divider, it is offline frequently for the repairs, resulting in extra costs for maintenance and to purchase rolls from outside vendors. We have a need for a pallet stacker truck in our food services warehouse to increase safety and efficiency while moving pallets of meal supplies to and from the warehouse, production floors, and kitchens. Due to the increase in demand for modified diets for inmates, we are requesting the addition of a dietetic technician to effectively manage increased workloads. Factors contributing to this increase include the aging inmate population, an increase of religious and/or medical diets, and to implement jail reform recommendations. The laundry unit at Elmwood washes an average of 165,000 pounds of inmate clothing and bedding every month. 3 of the 5 current industrial washers have reached the end of their normal life cycle and are frequently out of service for repair. 1 of the 4 dryers is out of service and irreparable. In the last fiscal year, repair costs have exceeded $40,000. We are requesting to replace 3 washers and 2 dryers to maintain our current level of usage. With the passage of SB 1421 and AB 748, as of January 1st for SB 1421 and July 1st for AB 748, the Sheriff's Office will now be required to provide parties with previously confidential law enforcement records through the California Public Records Act requests. Our current staffing is unable to support additional requirements to search, review, and redact records for release, especially regarding video. We are requesting 3 additional positions to ensure effective compliance and timely responses to CPRA requests. With the upcoming implementation of a new jail management system, we are requesting the addition of 3 civilian positions to ensure compliance with criminal justice database policies and regulations. The creation of a CLETS compliance unit will allow resources to develop county-specific enterprise compliance processes and procedures to allow us to perform enterprise-wide audits and training of those with access to CLETS information.
I'm going to interrupt for just a moment. I really appreciate this. In the interest of time, I know that we can see all of these detailed items, and I did want an overall report, but we don't have to go through each individual item that was written in the report. If you are fine with that, I'd like to just ask a couple of questions about items that were of concern to me, and then turn to my colleague to do the same. And I've got 3 different topics. One that you did just address, the carts. 106,000 ongoing didn't make sense to me. They're capital expenditures, right? We buy them, they last, they depreciate. Why is that an ongoing expense? Every year we buy carts?
Thank you, Supervisor. So what we are looking to do is to really start doing a replacement plan. So not to replace all the carts at once, but the price indicated is for 20 carts at a time, so that we constantly have new ones.
Okay.
And we're planning ahead.
And the 3 FTEs to transcribe the paper grievances to digital, I certainly understand how time-consuming that is, but we're really getting closer to getting those tablets, right? Yes. So it might be something to consider, and this is just a comment, rather than looking at 3 FTEs for that, to utilize extra help or something more temporary or part-time. Because ideally we're going to not need them in a few months.
So if I could just add, so up till now, we have been utilizing deputies who are on limited duty, and it's taking us 4 to 5 with the workload now, and they have assistance from the management analysts that are assigned to the grievance unit. So we would be looking for 1 community custody support assistant to collect them, and only 2, 1 per facility, to be doing data entry. Okay. So we think moving forward with tablets, that's kind of the minimum that we will need to still process
even with
and
the tablets.
Decipher
Interesting.
with tablets.
And with regard to the Special Victims Unit, my understanding is that the DA Victim Service Unit already provides these services regardless of whether or not the DA files. So I'm curious to know how this is different and whether it might not be better to integrate with existing services.
Sure. One of the things that would be unique about this particular unit is for cases that don't have a suspect yet or that are not filed, where there's no formal charges filed with the sheriff, with the district attorney's office, we would still have a unit to do follow-up with the victims, and particularly property crimes and other types of crimes where a suspect isn't identified and yet follow-up could still be done with the victims.
So I'd like to direct a question then to the district attorney. Does this sound different from what your office is already doing?
No, it does not. We already provide that service. All we require is a police report.
Is required. So we want to perhaps really talk about better integration or collaboration there.
Sure.
Thank you.
I may?
Please.
Yes, we're specifically addressing the needs of those victims whose cases have either not been filed with the DA's office or those cases that were filed with the DA's office, but the charges have not been brought up against the suspects. And we did have one case down in South County, as you would recall. We had a female victim who our detective pretty much spent a lot of time spending to ensure that they're well cared for and to ensure the safety of the victim, who we consider to be victim. And so that's basically the reason why we saw the need for the Special Victims Unit.
So if I could just add, so 30% of the cases that our Victim Services Unit works on, out of the approximately 10,000 last year, and we're estimating around 11,000 this year, 30% of those cases are cases which have not been filed by the DA's office, or charges have not been brought to the DA's office. They're simply cases where someone has a police report or a sheriff's department report. And in the case that the undersheriff is referring to, in South County, we provided services to that victim, as a matter of fact. Counseling services, other opportunities for services. And so, you know, it's up to the board to decide whether to add an additional Victim Services Unit. But the fact is that we and the District Attorney's Office are serving all of these victims that have been described thus far.
Okay, I appreciate that information. And finally, these are questions that I actually don't want an answer to now. I'm just going to put them on the record regarding the child care. I am very interested in that and would like to get an off-agenda report. I really do want to dig a little bit deeper into how this might work. So my first question is, has the sheriff completed a survey to identify the number of staff members that have children and would be interested in utilizing this type of service? So essentially, have we identified the need? Do we know the age range of the children we'll be serving and what the cost to parents might be? What the hours of the facility will be? Have we identified a service provider? What kind of licensing would be required of the provider or of the new facility? The amount requested actually sounded modest to me, the $150,000 to retrofit the facility. Does that include things like, you know, little tiny toilets for little tiny kids? And what does the $150,000 one-time funding get us? Where do you anticipate the building being located? How will we maintain the safety and security of that facility? And again, with that big list, and again with the timing today, I'd like to request an off-agenda report on that.
We'd be happy to provide an off-agenda report for those.
Thank you. Did you have anything?
Thank you. Just one comment to make when the supervisor brought up the question as far as the carts. I know you get into the whole amortization, the life of something as well. You were talking about replacing, and I heard you mention that we had 75 ovens. You know, there's some numbers out there that are just mind-boggling, that unless you're there and familiar with it, you wouldn't imagine how many there are there. But I know one thing I brought up about 3 years ago, and the Sheriff's Department did it, is they had an estimated life, an amortization, if you will, of patrol cars. And I asked the Sheriff's Department at that time, how recently has that number been evaluated, looked at? And they came back and they added an extra year, actually, onto the life of the patrol cars, because your facilities and fleet people do such great maintenance and everything else that happens. And when you do that, if you have a car that, you know, costs $50,000 and you say it's got a life of 7 years versus 8 years, the amount you set aside each year can be a little bit less. And you have such quantity of things that if you can make things last a little bit longer or reevaluate the lifetime that you've given to these items in order to replace them, little areas like that can help too. What I heard you saying about the carts is that the carts were just flat out old and you were looking to replace a couple of dozen a year, and that number. So for us sitting up here, when we hear about replacing 20 carts a year and it's $100,000, we say those are a heck of a cart. So further detail on stuff like that would be helpful for us as that comes back to the board through budget.
I've now seen the carts.
What's that?
I've now seen the carts.
There you go.
Okay, so I think we are good on the child care report, and I think I'd also like to request just on this SVU unit, without taking more time right now, a side-by-side comparison of what already exists, what the district attorney's office is doing, and what this unit is proposing that would be different and isn't addressed, because it sounds like we don't have clarity on that yet. Right. Moving on to item C, medical examiner coroner. Pretty straightforward.
Good afternoon. The medical examiner coroner's office is requesting a single item from the Board of Supervisors. We are requesting one full-time position, a forensic autopsy technician position. And what we have noticed in our data analysis over the last 2 years is not only have caseload increased, but we have increased our autopsy rate by 66%. The current caseload per technician averages 308 autopsies and examinations, and that actually exceeds the national recommended doctor average of 250. So by fulfilling this request, we would be able to expedite autopsies and provide a better service to the community by returning those loved ones to their family for funeral arrangements and services. Also, our office is very cognizant of staff burnout, so by having the extra position, we would embark on decreasing staff burnout and potential work-related injuries as we have a very physical as well as intellectual job back in the autopsy suite. So in total, we would be asking for $127,718 on an ongoing status for an additional autopsy technician. And this amount would provide a more manageable caseload per technician and prevent stress and potential work-related injuries, as well as provide a better service to our community. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you. I have none. Do you have questions? No? Thank you very much. And Aaron, I apologize. I skipped over B. So let's go back to, thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. Let's go back to pretrial.
Thank you. Aaron Johnson, Director of Pretrial Services. We have 5 items that we're presenting this year for our budget request. One is just an augmentation for our case management system, which we call POPS. That's our pretrial online production system. Currently, TSS has gone back and brought the previous vendor to help get our POPS development team back on track, and so this would be us just taking over that contract and moving forward as we had in the past. The second item is to augment our electronic monitoring program again. With the increase in use of electronic monitoring, we're continuing to project a large number of folks that are going to be on electronic monitoring moving forward. One of our department goals for next year is to increase our Amento OR, because we know we're trying to make sure that we fall in compliance with using the least restrictive conditions, and we want to make sure that the electronic monitoring is being used appropriately. But we are seeing an increase in the use, so we want to make sure that we have the staffing to take care of that, as well as the annualized cost for the increase for equipment lease. The third piece is a creation and pilot of what we call a community triage center. Wrong slide. Oh, there we go. Thank you. This is a collaborative of Office of Reentry, Behavioral Health, and Pretrial Services. We're really looking to provide a third option for law enforcement officers in the field. This is based on a program or a couple of different programs we looked at in Bexar County, in San Antonio, Texas, as well as Spokane County in Washington. We're trying to provide an opportunity for behavioral health, mental health, substance abuse to be dropped off in lieu of being taken to custody. The next two pieces are actually departmental support pieces. One is for pretrial program management specialists, and one is for an office management coordinator. These are just to enhance our current, to take on some new duties as we continue to grow as a department overall. And then our last one, I'm just providing an update for. This is, originally as we were growing in space, we were looking at redesigning our office. We have since met with facilities, and they have absorbed this proposal into one of their capital funding requests. So this may move off of our request. And I'll take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Your office is doing really a lot of cutting-edge, exciting work, and I imagine that it will continue to grow as the system reforms from bail to other diversion programs. I don't have any questions, but thank you for the report. Yeah? All right. And we're moving to item D, Public Defender.
For the sake of brevity, I'm going to deviate from my kind of scripted responses and simply quickly begin by thanking the board for the continued support the Public Defender's Office has received in the last several years, and in general. It's allowed us to both enhance and expand our services, and it's been primarily accomplished through workforce augmentation. But in this year, when we were reviewing our budget requests, we understood the county's goal of targeting a maintenance budget. And as a result, we tried to limit and narrow our requests to the most critical items. As a result, we only have two. Our first one is for four justice system clerk positions. While I did mention that we've been able to enhance our services, and one example would be, for instance, our post-conviction services, which are really an attempt to target the criminogenic reasons people are involved in the system. In other words, trying to figure out how we help people succeed. We've done that through just three programs I'd quickly highlight, which is our record clearance and expungement services in collaboration with the Reentry Center. We've expunged as many as 1,800 convictions, I believe, last year, or 1,800 cases last year. Similarly, we've implemented Prop 47 and Prop 64 to reduce felony convictions down to misdemeanors. And we also have built a social work unit to help develop safety plans for release of both juveniles and some of our mental health clients. That's all been accomplished through the addition of attorneys over the years, paralegals, investigators, and obviously the introduction of social workers in our agency, but it has significantly outpaced the clerical support necessary to provide those services. Intuitively, we understand that as we move into a digital age, we would assume that potentially clerical support would become less necessary as we automate and have auto feeds of information from other case management systems. But I think what we've found, and you see consistently in a number of the requests, is an explosion of digital material that we are ingesting, managing, and distributing. I won't go into the details, but I'm happy to answer questions regarding digital discovery. I would simply say through some robust collaboration with the District Attorney's Office, also with pretrial services and the probation office, we feel that as we've marched into this digital age and this paperless world, we've increased efficiency, we've reduced unnecessary delay that can be costly, and hopefully we've increased the overall fairness and justness of the system. Our second request relates to an immigration attorney. And again, I'd like to pause for just a moment and say it is a privilege to sit here and acknowledge the strong support we've received from the county and the Board of Supervisors in serving our local immigrant community. We have an immigration specialist in our office, and we have been a leader in that particular area of criminal defense. And it stands, frankly, in stark contrast to some of the leadership we're seeing at the national level. It also seems fitting in the week that we celebrate Cesar Chavez's birthday, and the ideals he stood for, he fought for, and the people he protected, that we return to the board and ask for additional support. Because what we have seen is the change at the national level has increased the request for our services. We really have two categories of services we provide. We provide advisement for clients with pending cases so they can make informed decisions, but we also do a tremendous amount of post-conviction work, helping people and members of our community address issues from their past. We have seen at the national level the federal government decide to abandon long-standing MOUs and target communities for deportation. And we are talking about members of our community who are documented, have legal status, have very old cases, have jobs, have been working, supporting families, and faithfully reporting to ICE all those years, and now they're being targeted for deportation. There has been a significant increase in requests from the community for this help and for these services, and our intention would be to target or dedicate any additional immigration attorney support for this particular work, which is far more complex and specialized than our average post-conviction work. Having said that, I have no further comments, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Our county exec just walked out of the room, but I want to give that a shout out as a really critical piece. And clearly what we're hearing, what we heard this afternoon from dozens and dozens of community members, that the need is high. So I hope that we will be able to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. District Attorney.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the Board of Supervisors and the County Executive, so you'll let him know I'm saying this, Miguel, for your continued support of our mission to vigorously pursue justice in a way that's fair and treats people equally and with respect. Our budget proposals focus around what we call the 3 E's: equity, efficiency, and effectiveness. Equity, this is our highest priority proposal that's focused on supporting various criminal justice reforms which are currently underway. For example, moving from a cash bail system for pretrial detention to an evidence-based model focused on suitability for release, recent state law changes related to the felony murder rule, and continuing our work to ensure that relatively minor criminal convictions do not result in disproportionate collateral consequences, often related to immigrant status. Our proposal addresses these trends by providing resources that would allow us to properly staff court proceedings related to these issues, participate in teams working on initiatives such as developing equitable conditions and metrics for pretrial release of defendants, and proactively working with partners to design treatment and diversion options that work to reduce incarceration. Next slide, please. Efficiency. The use of technology has grown dramatically in recent years in the criminal justice system. Court cases are filed electronically, discovery evidence is provided to defense attorneys through a shared file system, and prosecutors these days appear in court with laptops instead of carts full of paper files. These changes also open up new possibilities for the more efficient use of office space for us to accommodate people and not paper. Next slide. Effectiveness. We've created a dedicated team for officer-involved shootings and other incidents. Since 2017, we have increased our response to officer-involved incidents and shootings to include 3 investigators and 1 prosecutor to every call-out. We do this because the new county protocol that was signed in 2017 places the district attorney's office as the co-leader in these investigations with the authority to direct these criminal investigations. And because of this protocol signed by our county chiefs and our sheriff, we're dedicating, as I said, in the last 2 years, significantly more resources to these incidents. We'd also are asking to dedicate one of our investigators to the FBI Safe Streets Team Task Force, which tackles gang crime and violent crime in our county. In addition, our crime lab, we've asked for resources related to its quality assurance, as well as adding a major case manager for the increase we've seen in both SART kits and other kinds of DNA analysis. There's also equipment in the crime lab that needs to be updated as well. Next slide. And finally, in terms of effectiveness, we're asking to add some additional clerical staff to keep up with the explosion of electronic evidence from body-worn cameras and data dumps from phones and other devices. This will allow us to continue to speed up the discovery of all of this information. In addition, we're asking for a youth crime prevention proposal to backfill a grant that is shrinking for our South County Youth Task Force. And finally, we highlight in our presentation the REACT High-Tech Task Force. We're not asking for county money, but we're pointing out that we'll be receiving additional money outside of the county general fund to increase this task force. REACT is the country's leading task force in combating cybercrime and high-tech crime. REACT has traveled all over the country to bring cyber criminals to justice. And most recently, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is assigning an investigator from their office to the REACT task force to learn and network because of the effectiveness that REACT has. Thank you very much for your consideration of these proposals, which represent the result of our analysis of the most important initiatives that will help us advance justice and public safety in our county. Thank you for your continued support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the report. It all felt very clear to me. My single comment actually doesn't have to do with criminal justice as much as it does with our sustainability policy. And multiple requests within your budget include the need for a dedicated vehicle. And I just want to be sure that we are adhering to county policies, and anytime we are replacing vehicles, that we are replacing them with electric unless there's some particular reason why it's not appropriate in that case. But thank you very much for the report. Any questions? All right, re-entry. Hi, Javier.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Allenberg, Supervisor Wasserman, Javier Aguirre with the Office of Reentry Services. So our focus on these budget requests is how we continue to serve our clients and how do we expand our outreach to our clients both in custody and in the community. So on the first slide, just want to identify one of the highlights there. It's our Education and Employment Center. When reentry clients come to the Reentry Resource Centers, both in San Jose and Gilroy, they are asked a question about if they have a high school diploma or GED. So 1 in 3 lack a high school diploma or a GED. And so we are looking at converting our literacy lab, our computer lab, into an education and employment center. And the staffing will assist to broker services and classes with our community colleges. We're also in conversation with Work to Future to look at expanding vocational training in the community. Next slide. So on this slide, I want to highlight one of our proposals, and that is 2 proposals. One is for South County. We have limited hours in South County due to our staffing. We're only there half days on Mondays and Wednesdays, full days on Tuesday and Thursday, no services on Friday. We've seen an increase in need. We see now we have about 145 individuals that come to the reentry center in South County. So we're hoping that a community worker will allow us to expand the hours in South County. And then the item there where it says establish a clothing kit project. So this is new for us. We see a lot of our clients come in wearing some old garments, old clothes. They're also released from custody with the same clothes that they came into custody. We do all the efforts at the sheriff's office. They have some used clothing that they could offer clients. Our faith-based centers seek donations for used clothing. But we're looking for purchasing new garments, socks, pants, shirts for clients that come to the reentry center, and hopefully those that are coming out of jail. so they could have some fresh set of clothing before they start seeking for services. And then on the last slide here is to allocate one-time funding for our reentry services. So currently we oversee and monitor 25 contracts. 18 of those are in the community, 5 are serving folks in custody, and 2 are hybrid. All of those contracts will expire on June 30th of this year. We did release an RFP release for proposals back in November of last year. We're now reviewing all of those proposals, and we're beginning to negotiate with some of our existing and some of our new contracts. And so we received over 20 proposals, so we're looking at the merits of those contracts. This funding will allow us to continue the services for an additional year. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you. I believe this was on, this proposal was on consent already. And did we look at this allocation and 3-year plan in February as well?
Well, go ahead.
Yep. So the services are part of the strategic plan that the PSJC did approve on consent.
Right.
They'll go to the board hopefully on April 23rd.
Thank you for clarifying that. I have no other questions.
PSJ approved to go forward. I do have one question of Javier, if I may. Thank you. Javier, as usual, great jobs. Your numbers keep increasing. The move from San Martin to Gilroy obviously was the right thing to do. I just want to make you aware, and if you can pass it on to those people you work with, I've got a growing sentiment among certain individuals in South County, specifically Gilroy, that I've expressed being backwards. And it's that they feel that the county providing services there is attracting those with need for those services to be there, whether it be reentry, whether it be social services, whether it be clinics, whether it be homeless shelters. There's certain individuals there in position of influence that are saying because the county is moving things to Gilroy, that's causing those people to come to Gilroy. I'm telling them that we the county determine where we place our services based on the needs. And where the needs are the greatest is where we place the greatest services. So any information that you gather, come across, whatever, that has to do with the clientele that you serve, perhaps where they call home. I would be very surprised if a lot of the clientele you serve in Gilroy are coming from Los Altos and Palo Alto and Mountain View. Of course, I'm open to being corrected, but I could use any data that you may come across that you can provide my office that I can use when speaking to certain groups in South County.
Absolutely, and we could provide you with information. We do have a South County policy meeting next Wednesday.
Wonderful.
And we'll work on getting that data for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Javier. Probation. Chief Garnett.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Supervisors Ellenberg, Wasserman, the administration, my colleagues, and the community. I'm excited this afternoon to present our budget request for the next fiscal year. We're extremely proud of the strides our department has made this year. We continue to learn, grow, and modify our approach to keep pace with ongoing challenges. The probation department serves a unique role and provides support for many of our system partners. Our department is charged with receiving and processing all juvenile citations and arrests. We operate the juvenile hall in the James Ranch. We staff both adult and juvenile court, and we supervise up to 10,000 adults on formal probation every day. Our work is complex, crucial, and has many moving parts. We move quickly and nimbly, which takes significant staff effort. We embrace the culture created by the Office of the County Executive that promotes high levels of innovation and collaboration to serve our community. We are also very aware of the fiscal constraints facing Santa Clara County today. We initially had a request for 22 positions that we pared down to only 10, the ones we feel are critical to continue our current path. Next slide, first slide. No, I'm sorry, go back, there you go. We're asking for 4 information technology positions. We're launching a new case management system and a new institutional case management system back to back. Next slide. We're asking for some personnel support. We have almost 1,000 employees. We're the 4th largest department in the county. I know this is a request from many departments. requirements that we have to abide by with the sworn staff take considerably more time than in departments without sworn staff. Next slide. Currently, we have, again, almost 1,000 employees. About 700 of those employees are peace officers with required annual training. We also are very active in training our non-sworn staff, so the training unit handles that. We currently don't have a probation counselor in that unit, and it's needed. That's the classification for the James Ranch. Next slide, please. And finally, our Justice Planning Services Division. We're asking for a code in both grants and contracts and in our research and development unit. Our grants and contracts unit manage over 150 contracts. And I'm going to deviate for a second, but they've done a really great job of illuminating in our RFPs who our target population is, down to their risk levels, their ethnicities, their probability of being LGBT, of being a gang member, et cetera. To keep that up, we definitely need some support in that area. And then our research and development unit is just amazing, and they're also working on over 150 projects at the current time and just pumping it out, but woefully under-resourced. Yes, it is on there. Oh, I think we got that on there. And then finally, we're asking for another probation officer for our young adult deferred entry of judgment program, which I think is already pretty well described. And then some funding for a new batter's intervention treatment modality that is being put forward by Assembly Member Stone and is supported by both the District Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. The reports that come from your department are really phenomenal and informative, and I appreciate that work. And also, my next tour should be to Juvenile Hall and the ranch.
We're in the process of scheduling that.
Excellent. Do you have questions on that? All right. I want to thank all of the departments for your work in creating these requests. Something that would be interesting to me, I don't know if we do this, Dr. Smith, when you present a recommended budget, does it include a side-by-side comparison of what's requested, and in cases where it may potentially differ, is that clear?
No.
Might it be?
No. I mean,
perhaps we should talk about that more.
Well, basically, we present a budget that's the recommended budget based on all of the recommendations from the department heads, and we essentially have no capacity to compare the two because they don't present a balanced budget. And we have an obligation to the board to present a balanced budget. Remember, each department sort of gives us a wish list without looking at other departments and how they might balance. So
that I understand. I just didn't know if we could still compare what they ask for.
Well, we can give you a separate document that
Okay.
is a comparison. Yes.
All right. I think
Yeah, we can
that's-
do that if you want that.
That would be good enough.
Yes.
I appreciate that. And one public comment. We'll wrap up with that. There are no other comments. We've got 5 public comments. 1, 2, 3, 6 public comments on these last items. Scott Largent, one without a name, Ron Hansen, Dolores Morales, and Lindsay Austin. And what is the timing on that with 6 speakers? Is it 2 minutes or 1 minute?
Sorry, it's still 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Business and Professions Code 6128 makes it a misdemeanor for an attorney to lie to a tribunal. I guess we could argue whether or not this is a tribunal, but Mr. Rosen just lied to all of you about his Victim Services Unit. Casey Calhoun and Mr. Rosen are the two who sign most of the state and federal grants in this county, including from the Office of Emergency Services. I sat in a meeting with Ms. Calhoun when she told a victim who had an OES number, which was registered in Los Angeles County because her husband had committed felony domestic violence and child abuse, that she couldn't help her in family court. Mr. Rosen's office has turned away so many victims and so wasted taxpayer money that there is currently a recall campaign. You can find information about that on recallrosen.org. It's going to cost this county a lot of money. just like it did in Persky, because Mr. Rosen has been failing victims, and the numbers that he just gave you, that they serve 10,000 victims, he's clearly not looking at any victims from domestic violence cases in family courts. In family courts, they don't take the guns away. They don't register the DVs under the CLET system, and they don't give you a public defender or someone from the IDO to defend you if you're charged with domestic violence, and yet the outcome is still a criminal outcome. People are losing their jobs. Teachers are losing their jobs. Ironically, the people who are not getting dinged with the DVs are lawyers. And there was recently a fingerprinting law where they uncovered that all kinds of lawyers have engaged in crimes, and Mr. Rosen never reported that to the state bar. Mr. Rosen also said that because he was prosecuting me for a crime, that he could not look into, and did not look into, a criminal conspiracy in our family courts regarding Bradford Baugh, Nat Hales, and my former husband. I basically have rape immunity because Victim Services is in Mr. Rosen's office. He failed the rape victim in San Martin. He failed most of the victims who are victimized in family courts, and that's where you're sending them. It needs to be in the sheriff's department.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Ron Hansen. I'm affiliated with PACT, People Acting in Community Together. I urge your thoughtful consideration and support for the Sheriff's Office Proposal 20513, that is child care. There's been substantial discussion, both today and in other forums, related to staffing and overtime in the office. Though perhaps not identified as such an important element in recruiting and maintaining qualified law enforcement personnel, child care is a critical element in the maintenance of healthy families and employees. As we did last year when this proposal was submitted, we support this forward-looking proposal and urge the committee to do the same. We also urge your thoughtful consideration and support of all of the budget requests from the Office of Pretrial Services. Pretrial Services sets a high bar, delivering a better than 90% overall success rate and a 99% safety rate. They do this while saving the county more than $100 per client per day due to their clients not being detained in jail. According to their request, their client load has increased 20% year over year, hence their need for additional resources. There are few budget requests that can demonstrate such a win for everyone involved. The clients by maintaining their freedom, the community by keeping their clients out of trouble, and the county by saving money for every client that is served by this office. We strongly support these budget requests and urge the committee to do the same. And finally, I, as the Vice Chair and also representing the Juvenile Justice Commission of Santa Clara County, we're requesting this committee to specifically approve the Probation Department's request for Proposal 21044. That is, the addition of a senior research and evaluation specialist to the Research Development Unit. This provides support for our commission as well as the whole board for knowing what's going on in the Probation Department. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Dolores Morales, SEMA Union President, and I'm here today to support the conservative budgetary request from the Probation Department. The Probation Department is the information hub for many of the justice system partners. The department collaborates with various stakeholders to improve system processes and services that impact our clients. The requests presented today are essential key positions to support these efforts, including information technology, grants and contracts, and research and development. Without these positions, the required changes, such as the new case management system, will be impossible to implement. I strongly urge the board and the county executive to consider the budget recommendations from the Probation Department. Thank you for your consideration. I'd also like to thank all of you for your service to the residents of Santa Clara County.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Austin again. Before making my comment, I would just like to speak in support of the Sheriff's request for a special victims unit that is very much an essential need for this county. And I'll outline why because of my comment to the DA's office. I'm here to speak from personal experience of structural issues and discriminations I experienced in the DA's Victims Assistance Office. Late February 2017, I was arrested, detained, and transferred to Elmwood after exercising self-defense against reoccurring sexual assault. My ex-husband moved a roommate into my apartment after forging my signature to renew the apartment lease in late October 2016. I changed the locks, but he gave a key again to this guy. And besides the sexual assault, I experienced secondary victimization through the arrest, reporting sexual assault to Detective David Schneider of Santa Clara Police Department. He asked inappropriate questions like what I was wearing. This person broke into my home. And he spoke to me off the record and told me I was a nice girl that was, didn't need to let boys treat me this way, even if he's scoring good dope for me from the city. I've never had any substance abuse issues, thank goodness, despite all the challenges I've been through. Sent on a wild goose chase to go through, and I had filled out a DVTRO, was granted it. I couldn't figure out where to get it served. I went to Pleasanton, Livermore, until someone finally told me I needed to go to Alameda County. And when I went to get services from Cal VCP, I was told that I was only there to retaliate against their arrest, as given statement by Detective David Schneider. They were non-responsive to death threats, rapists staying in the apartment 10 minutes from me, and threats to kidnap my child. There is definitely a need for training for responding officers.
Thank you for your comment.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Scott Largent. Lindsay's coming in here asking for help, okay? Lindsay can't even afford right now to watch her own child. I'm childcare for her, so she can go to domestic violence classes that she shouldn't be going to. Her husband should be going to those. I watch her child so she can go to lawyer appointments, okay? She went and applied for food stamps about a month ago. She also has now applied for cash aid. So everything is failing this woman right now with our county. She has come in here 4 times, okay? I appreciate that a lot of you are paying attention. The victim services guy right over there, Jeff Rosen, is deep in his phone, okay? That's why there's a problem right here. Our sheriff's department over there is paying attention when people are coming up to this podium and talking about problems. Jeff, you haven't been listening to the public for a very long time. When I tried to reach out to Jeff Rosen, he constantly just kind of pushed me to the side. He didn't ever want to talk to me. I wanted to ask him questions about enforcing visitation orders to see my child, okay? I just wanted enforcement, and I begged and I begged and I begged, but you're not paying attention to the public. And after I was denied access to my child for 30 days, I actually would be entitled to the Victim Compensations Fund that would have more likely provided me therapy and maybe a family law attorney to figure this garbage out right here. These civil orders are confusing to people. They're not even worth the paper they're printed on. If I would have known, I mean, it's just sad. This stuff really is a load of crap. I would have stood a better chance of committing a felony when I got sober, and I would have been able to use the reentry center. I would have been, I would have had all these other services. Can I cash in my citizenship? Because I would be treated better.
Thank you for your
not
comments.
being a citizen in our county. I would. You guys would reunite my family. You'd probably pay attention to all my complaints that I come in here. How many times do I have to come in
Mr.
here?
Largent.
How many times?
Thank you for your comment.
How many
and
times?
The time
Do
is
people,
expired.
anybody pay attention in our county? How many times do I have to come in here? I got a loud voice. Kill the goddamn thing. This is the problem right here. Rosen, this is called Recall Rosen right here. You denied me access to my daughter for 2 years, and you never did the right thing. And you politicians up there have been failing our community. We deserve better here in Santa Clara County, and not this crap right here. And that's my personal property, bud. Take your goddamn hands off it. That's my Recall Rosen thing right here. Would you like one?
I'm going to adjourn this meeting with as out of place as it may feel at this very second, I want to adjourn this meeting with wishes for a happy birthday for Supervisor Wasserman. And although all of our meetings don't end with cake, this one will. Happy birthday. Meeting is adjourned.